Hi guys, it's Antoinette the Confident Woman and welcome back to my channel. Now, this is just going to be an introduction to the sex series. Letting you know what to expect, and I'm also giving this disclaimer that if you don't want to hear about sex, or you think this topic is going to get you going, if you know what I mean, or you think it's inappropriate for yourself or anyone around you, then you might want to switch off now. Like, just please exit the building, because like the title of this series, there is not going to be a filter, especially in the episodes to come. So, as per usual, everything I'm going to be talking about is from my experience. I am not a sex expert. I repeat, that is not my job title. I'm just letting you know, but I thought I would share some of the things that have helped me, in the hope that it might help someone else who's just starting in their sex journey. And like I said before, I'm also getting a special guest, well, she's special to me, who has had plenty of years under her belt. You get the pun? You see what I did there? A bit of a dark horse, I would say, to come and help answer some of those more intimate, tricky questions, also giving you a different perspective on the thing, you know? So you want to look out for that episode, one of like the subsequent episodes to come. And I also want to add that although I'm not going to be going into the do's and don'ts in any of the videos, a lot of what I'm saying will be coming from my Christian perspective and values. So you ask, what do you want this series to accomplish? Accomplish, is that the right word? Yeah, I can use that word. What I want it to accomplish is to cover the areas that people aren't willingly open to discuss, especially like in the church circle, because of this unwillingness as well, or prudishness. It's left a lot of people kind of confused, either confused or stuck in situations that they don't really want to be in, because they can't, or they don't feel that they can reach out to anyone, simply because of the taboo attached to sex and the embarrassment associated with the fact that this topic is so sensitive and personal. There are so many people that are kind of like suffering in silence, and a lot of people are not even scratching the surface of their sex lives, let alone reaching that spark. You know, they're not reaching it. They're not reaching it. So I am here, guys, and in a way I feel like people be holding on to the same approach of dealing with sex by not dealing with it at all. It's just like, don't talk about it, it'll just disappear kind of thing. Not to talk about the fact that the message of abstinence for majority of people has been delivered in the wrong way. Like the narrative of don't have sex, don't have sex, don't have sex is heavily rooted and coming from an angle of fear, as opposed to allowing people to truly understand why the Bible says they need to abstain. And you know, anything done in fear is automatic failure, hence why I said that approach is not effective. It's not working, neither is it effective. And that's why I feel it's vital to talk about this and encourage discussions around sex, especially with teenagers and teens, so that they're seeing sex for what it is and they're not developing the wrong mindset about it, which will eventually do more harm than good. But I'll speak more on this later on, like in subsequent episodes. Now, having said all of that, now don't shoot me down. Don't shoot me down. I honestly do think that a lot of people that aren't sexually active feel that there's this big thing that married folk be holding off on speaking about regarding sex. And I don't think there's nothing y'all don't already know, to be honest. And there's a number of reasons why people generally shy away from talking about sex. The reality is most married people are still trying to get their heads around their own sex life and work at being more intimate with their partner, or resolve any sex issues that they themselves have, let alone be coming out and be talking jazz about what, like, me, I got my own issues, what do I want to be saying to you, kind of thing. And it's kind of awkward to start or always be talking about the topic if you don't want to be stirring up ish or helping people get into their feelings. Does that make sense? So it's kind of partly also why I myself held off from covering this topic for so long. I mean, I had doing this series on my mind for a long time, and then last year I recorded it, and then I just decided to scrap everything. Like, I literally backed away. I didn't even upload it, simply because for me to effectively speak about this, I'm gonna have to share my experience. And when I recorded this before, I didn't really go in depth or share anything to do with my experience. And I thought, no, this isn't effective, because if I'm hearing this, I want to know what you went through and how you overcame it, or how you're overcoming it, that kind of thing. So yeah, if I'm being honest, it's something that I've not been comfortable with doing, especially when you're sharing over the internet in this day and age where people freely disrespect or just air their lousy opinions at any given. So this has been very conflicting for me, but I've bitten the bullet and I've had to get over my inhibitions in the hope that if what I'm saying or what I'm sharing helps someone, then it's worth it. And then there's also the fact that there's no two relationships that are the same. No two relationships are going to be the same. Everyone's going to experience something different when it comes to sex, and quite frankly, as you go on in your journey, you begin to realize that although sex and intimacy are very important for the relationship to thrive, it's not the be all and ends all of it all. True intimacy really does go past the physical. Like when you tap that in, when you realize that this sex is not what it's all about. So as an add-on, although being attracted to someone is important, who they are, their character, I think is like so much more important. And it sounds cliche, but it's incredibly true, because that's what's going to make it work. So the two of you being on the same wavelength or working towards getting to that frequency, if you're not there, should be more of your goal than whether they can pack it good in bed. And you know I digress, but I thought I needed to include this because someone might need to hear this. Now back to what I was talking about, back to what I was saying. The beauty of life is that you can go through the same thing as someone else or be on a similar journey as them, like pregnancy or in this case having sex, but your experience can be completely different and unique to you. And that's what makes this topic a bit hard to cover, because you're having to talk about something that's very subjective in generalized terms. But I'll give it a go. I have decided to put myself on the hot seat for you guys. Don't say that I don't love you. Don't say it, because I do. Now, if you've been following my journey, you'll know that I had little to no confidence, particularly body confidence, and I hated my body, all of that. I don't need to go into all the details, but obviously all of that had an effect on my sex life. And it wasn't like we weren't getting things going on. Yo, we were. But I was constantly thinking what my husband was thinking about my body. And regardless of what he said to me, this didn't shift what I thought he was thinking. Can you imagine? It's so messed up, I know. Anyway, because of this constant second guessing, I never really initially enjoyed sex the way I should have, because I wasn't comfortable with myself or in myself. And when I look back in retrospect, oh gosh, I don't want to cry, but I'm like, why did you do this to yourself, girl? Why? Like, how many months and years were you missing out on good stuffs because you had something in your mind? Oh gosh. Anyway, that's why I'm a firm believer that the more confident you are, even in life in general, the more confident you are in your body, the better your sex life is going to be. Because your insecurities, no matter how insignificant you think they are, affect the flow of things. It's that simple. So you need to deal with it or put up with mediocre sex, really, and it's down to you. No one else can help you, not even your partner, because it's not like they ain't performing, you're just not receiving, you get? And just to give a little bit more perspective, it wasn't like I was frigid. No, in fact, far from. It was just that I had a negative mindset about myself, and that coupled with the skewed thoughts about sex that I had in general, like I was saying before, the misconceptions that came from places like church and aunties about don't have sex, don't have sex, don't have sex, you know, that constant drilling that was pumped into us because they were scared that we were going to get pregnant. Subconsciously, that instilled negative feelings towards sex in me. Now, although I personally didn't end up having problems with actually having sex or intercourse, like so many people have said that they have had, every time I did have sex in the early days, it's like I felt really dirty afterwards. Like during sex and after, I had this feeling of dirt, like what I'm doing is I shouldn't be doing what I'm doing kind of thing. And I couldn't shift that feeling of guilt regardless. It's so weird because it's like, I'm actually married to this guy, and that sense of guilt would still come over me and I couldn't shift it. And it took me so long before I actually realized what was going on here. It took me a while to see that it's because I had such a skewed view or perspective about sex because of what was drilled into us. Hence why I said the church approach is ineffective. And when I say church, I'm not talking about specific church. I'm just generalizing. And I'm not saying every single church is like this. But generally, that approach of not having sex, drilled into people from the angle of fear is doing more damage than it is good. And I need to point out that I'm not knocking the church, and I'm not giving people a license to sin either. I'm just saying that I think it's time we looked at different approaches apart from scare tactics to getting people to abstain. And that approach really needs to be word-based, nothing else. Anyway, back to what I was saying. For me personally, and I have to say personally because the opposite was for my husband, I wasn't reaching the heights I should have been reaching all the time. It was kind of like hit and miss, and it really did depend on my mood. I wasn't reaching those heights at the start of my marriage because of that mindset. And at the beginning of our marriage as well, it was really more sex. There was no true intimacy, and I mean intimacy past the physical. I know a lot of people use the word sex and intimacy interchangeably, but I think there's a difference between the two, and sex often leads to intimacy. And you can have sex without being truly intimate, if you know what I'm saying. And if I'm honest, that whole intimacy thing is still an area that we're working on, because it's like, now that you've tapped on it, now that you realized, you're like, hish, hey, there's more to this than what you think, kind of thing. It's like, boy, you just want to like discover more. So that's why I'm thinking, no, this topic is so vital, because we kind of skim over it. We don't ever want to go in. So kind of like our goal now is to kind of like even reach deeper in that levels, you know, there's levels to this thing, and it's important to be open, honest, and communication is key. I can't even stress how important it is. You can't even say that you're intimate with someone and you can't be open and honest with them. Like, it's not happening. And I'm telling you, these things make a huge and a big difference if you want to go from the typical bang bang sex to more what it should be kind of thing. But that's for another episode, guys. So if there's any takeaway that I want y'all that ain't been tapped yet to get from this, is for you to see sex for what it is. Sex is a beautiful thing. Sex is nice. I'm not even gonna lie, it's sweet. But you don't want to build up that resistance because you're trying to abstain. You're trying to do it in fear. You're trying to do it in self. Because it's going to be so hard for you to break away from that, and it's going to affect your sex life when it comes to it. That's the takeaway that I want you to have. And if you're choosing to abstain, I'm saying the word choosing because intentionally saying the word choosing because it's a choice. It should be for the right reasons. It's not just because you're scared, or it's not just because it's trending, because you know celibacy now is a trend. So do it for the right reasons. Being VUM or being celibate, it's for the right reasons, and it's more in honoring God's word than self-centered reasons. There's no point if you're just doing everything self-centeredly, because it's not going to work. You're trying to do this in your own strength as opposed to God's ability working through you. It just makes it incredibly hard. But like I said, this is not a do's and don'ts video, so I will leave it there for now, guys, and I am going to go into more detail and more practical tips, the juicy stuff, in my subsequent videos. I just thought I'll just introduce this series to you and let you know what to expect. And obviously y'all need to hit that subscribe button and the notification bell to be getting the updates on this series, because I'm not necessarily always going to be advertising it and all of that jazz. So yes, guys, I will leave it there for now, and remember that it's one step at a time to becoming confident. So stick around for the videos. You don't want to miss what I have in store for you. Yeah. Oh, it's all about sex, baby. It's all about you and me.